All right, all right. Here we go. Episode 15, Hitting the Road podcast. I am here with singer, songwriter, musician, CJ Solar. CJ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks for having me.
Man, you bet, you bet. I was just kind of kicking around here earlier, and there's a lot that you can tell about your journey. I mean, your journey's been pretty interesting, man. And you would, and what I want to do, I know that we talked, before we jumped on, I wanted to kind of get into really just kind of your early days and all this kind of stuff. But before we get to doing that, before we get to talk about your early days and where you're at now, let me just give you a brief introduction real quick. For those that don't know, this is a very difficult thing to do as a songwriter. CJ's got multiple number ones. He's got cuts from some of the biggest artists in country music. He's an artist himself. He's got millions of streams as a songwriter. He's got millions of streams as an artist, which is crazy. Check him out on Spotify if you haven't already. CJ. Let's get going, man. So let me ask you, man. So some people may be familiar with some of your stuff. I mean, we're gonna get to this, but up, down, like whatever. Like, there's gonna be people that know about you. Oh, I didn't know that. That was the guy behind it, or one of the guys behind it. But before we get into it, man, tell me a little bit about your early days in Louisiana. I mean, because here's kind of the deal. I was thinking about it, man. Like, a lot of times, man, when you think about music in Louisiana, I'm thinking Zydeco. I'm thinking jazz. I'm not exactly thinking about, there's a guy coming here that is rich in country music. Like, tell me about your early days, man.
Well, man, I grew up in Baton Rouge, and my parents were music lovers. Um, but a lot of the stuff that I really like, my first stuff that I was really introduced to, like of most people, was like classic rock. That was kind of like that was the first love. My parents were big on Creedence, Clearwater Revival, Skinner, Allman Brothers, that kind of stuff. Doobies were my first concert that my
Yeah.
parents took me to. So that was kind of my first love. And then I feel like there was a shift in country music from the late 90s to the early 2000s that almost leaned a little more classic rock inspired with um, acts like Montgomery Gentry
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some of that early Jason Aldean stuff. And I remember that stuff coming out when I was in or being around when I was in middle school, and I was like, man, this stuff's pretty cool. Started getting on my radar a little more when I was a younger kid, and it was like Garth Brooks and the Dixie Chicks. It just didn't excite me the way that Credence did, and I was like, man, they're singing about similar stuff. I'm like, Credence, is singing about Born on the Bayou and all these other country. It was country lyrically to me,
Yeah.
which I always resonated with, you know, that kind of lyric. But I just, yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 7.
Okay.
Obviously, I was terrible for quite a while, as 7-year-olds are. But
Sure.
as I got to middle school, it started getting a little better. I started gravitating towards country music. My parents actually took me on a trip to Nashville, 7th or 8th grade,
Okay.
and we went to the Grand Ole Opry, and I saw Blake Shelton, Dierks Bentley,
Oh,
and Brad
wow.
Paisley were
Yeah.
all on the same bill that night.
That's a
And
lineup. Yeah.
yeah, dude, I remember watching that lineup, and I was like, dang, I think I want to do what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
Which I also didn't see a whole lot of young people doing, classic rock. When my parents took me to see Skinner or the Doobies or
Right.
John Fogerty, I was like, dang, these guys are old. You know what I mean? I was like, where,
Yeah.
where are the like 25-year-old guys? What
Yeah.
are they doing? I think even then I was kind of just thinking about, a musical path and what that might look like, which then led me to songwriting, because I was like, well, how do you get songs? Where do these songs come from? I was like, oh, you gotta write them yourself, or work with people
Sure.
in Nashville, or record songs with people in Nashville. But I went, man, somebody's writing these songs. When I would get a Montgomery Gentry CD and look at the back, and I see a lot of repeat names like Jeffrey Steele and Bob DiPiero and all of these other kind of heroes of mine, I was like, okay, so there's a lot of people. This isn't just the band. This is a thing. So that
Yeah.
kind of put Nashville on my radar when I was pretty young. But yeah, man, I obviously Zydeco and um, Swamp Pop, which is
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you've never heard of it. Those things were around. I like those things. They're not my favorite. It's funny, accordion I just don't love. I
Yeah.
hate to be the Louisiana guy who doesn't
Oh
love
man.
accordion, but it's just in certain contexts it can be cool, but it's not always my favorite. But I don't know, a lot of the more like soulful leaning stuff, like well, Mark Broussard was one
Yeah.
of my favorite
Yeah.
guys growing up. He had a really cool mix of like Louisiana influences with Nashville and just soul music in general that I really loved. And there were a lot of other local guys in Baton Rouge, like Chris LeBlanc and
Yeah.
Mike Kirkholder. Some of these like guys that are just playing a lot down there that are just insanely talented and really soulful. So I feel like what really rubbed off on me the most was the soulfulness
Yeah.
of the music in the area. I think that's kind of the thing that I
Yeah, there's kind of a grittiness, right? Like there's a soul for like a grittiness, kind of a dirty, yeah, kind of that kind of vibe. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So that's what I think rubbed off on me the most, not necessarily um, and I guess some of that Zydeco and some of that stuff is almost a little like Cajun, and there's so many different what do you
Yeah.
call it? There's so many different flavors of Louisiana.
Yeah.
You have your Creole, you have your Cajun, you have just rednecks, you have like all these different
Yeah.
flavors. So um, a lot of my family was just more country as
Really? Yeah.
opposed to Cajun. Um, so
I mean, so like who are they listening to? I mean, like when your family, they listen to country musicians in the car, you guys headed out, whatever. Stretch a highway, like who are y'all listening to?
Well, I mean, my parents were mostly just listening to CCR, Allman Brothers, Doobies, and stuff. My grandma was more country. She kind of grew up. She grew up in New Orleans as a young kid, and then kind of just lived in the country outside of Baton Rouge. And she was an old country. She liked, Willie Whalen, that kind of stuff. She always said she was more an Elvis person than the Beatles,
Yeah.
which I always
Yeah.
laugh at. So some of that old school kind of music. She really liked the outlaw country stuff. That was kind of my grandparents. I remember really liking that. And then like I don't know, she always had like Peter, Paul, and Mary on,
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, totally.
But she wasn't super big on current country music. She was my grandparents were always. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I just grew up around was old music. Like there was
Sure.
not a lot of contemporary stuff until I kind of started digging in on modern country when I was in like middle school.
Yeah. Well, man, because like, and again, so I've been to New Orleans and done the Louisiana thing, a couple, mostly for just whatever, work trips, but it's such a cool, like it's a cool state. I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, it's a really cool state, depending on just, where you end up and where you go. And it's like, I'm just kind of curious, man, because like, with your upbringing, and I want to know because you didn't do, to the best of my knowledge, you didn't do like the hard gigging stuff, like when until you kind of came to town and all that kind of stuff. But I guess like when you were in your early days, like what was your upbringing like? Were you guys out, kind of like working? I mean, the reason I ask is because like I think that right here lately, man, I see a lot of people on Instagram. It's almost like an online resume. They're kind of trying to prove their countryness, if that makes any sense. Like here's a picture of my lab jumping into the river. Here's a picture of me growing watermelons. I'm country. I guess my curiosity is like, were you from the country or was it like kind
Well,
of sort
so
of or
so so my parents were both doctors and they
really?
worked at the hospital in Baton Rouge. So we actually grew up in town, but my dad's mom lived on a farm where they trained cutting horses about an hour and a half outside of Baton Rouge. So that's kind of where a lot of my like country stuff comes
Sure,
from. I mean,
sure,
Louisiana as a whole is not. It's not like you really get big city vibes in Baton Rouge.
right.
It's kind of a medium-sized town. But we lived in town, but we would go out to my grandma's, and I usually spend a couple weeks out there in the summertime, and
Yeah,
she
man.
had horses and cows and stuff, so we kind of
Totally.
hung out there. I guess that's kind of like the most of the country living that I got to soak
Sure,
up was kind of hanging out there. Otherwise, we kind of grew up in town, but I don't know. I just kind of always liked that stuff and
totally.
resonated with it. We did ride horses growing up, but nothing like crazy. It wasn't like I was really baling hay. They'd make me go
Yeah,
shovel. they'd make me go shovel horse shit sometimes, but it was mostly just because they were like, see what your life could be like if you go
Yeah,
to
proving
school.
a point.
It,
Yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't really like I had to do it all the time. Every now and then they'd be like, all
Totally.
right, you need to go shovel some horse crap. But
Yeah.
um,
Man,
I think,
it's so funny because you talk about like, listen, I'm from Texas, kind of born and raised, and my grandparents they had a farm about 20 acres, a little bit west of town, and I was telling my nephew the other day, so like, and I'm not kidding, you talk about baling hay. My grandfather, that's just what you did. If I'm with him on, in the summer, whatever, we're baling hay. And I'm not kidding. This sounds so funny, man, but he would pay me with a bowl of beans, man. I'm not kidding. Like that was my like lunch, right? But I wouldn't consider myself like country. But the thing about it is like it influences you because you do get to
so
see,
yeah.
you get to
Well,
see that life, yeah?
yeah, and I did love music, and I did actually start gigging pretty young. Me and my brothers had a little band, and the guy that I took lessons from, Stan Campbell, who was a really popular guitar teacher in Baton Rouge, kind of started helping me get gigs in
Really?
Mexican restaurants and things. And then me and him, once I got to high school, started doing like duo gigs where he'd play guitar and I'd sing and play acoustic. And
Yeah.
so I played in high school. I played restaurants almost every weekend. Most of the bars were 21 and up. Every now and then there would be a bar gig. But I did a lot of restaurant gigs
Okay.
in high school, which is kind of how I got the whole, 3 hour cover thing down. Was just, I'm like, well, what do? You learn about, and I feel like that was really influential in helping my songwriting, was just learning how to play and sing other songs, because
Yeah.
you just get the feel for movements, chords, melodies. A lot of that stuff I feel like comes from learning other stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was really influential in my sound, especially because I love classic rock. So we played a lot of classic rock. I feel like Baton Rouge wasn't a huge country music town at that time. So, I'd cover a little bit of country music, but there was a lot of classic rock getting covered. And I feel like that just kind of really rubbed off on my musical sensibilities as
Yeah.
a singer and a guitar player.
Totally.
Um, so when I started writing songs, I feel like they naturally had a little bit of that influence in them.
Yeah. And so you get to a certain point where, you're like you mentioned earlier, like I'm going to do this. If I'm going to do this, I mean, it's, I got to go to Nashville, chances are. And so like, I mean, how did that, like, I mean, because I know you went to college and that, I mean, you could kind of tell that story, but
Yeah,
um,
when I was in eighth grade, I there was a girl that took guitar lessons right before me, who was a a senior in high school. So she told me about Belmont. She was like, "Hey, I'm going to Belmont. They have like a music business program, and I know like you're getting into country music, and that's where country music is based." Which was kind of, I didn't really know that at the time. I was just kind of learning these things,
yeah,
a little bit. I guess I
totally.
had been to the Opry or around that time, went there, but I was like, okay, cool. So there's like a whole business around it. So that kind of made me start looking into it. I found out about NSAI, the Nashville
Yeah.
Songwriters
Yeah.
Association, and just kind of started digging in on songwriting a little bit harder around that time. And as much as a eighth grader or whatever can
Totally.
do,
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, but I was like, it was opening my eyes a little bit. So, when I was in high school, started making some trips to Nashville. I joined NSAI. They had a New Orleans chapter. Every now and then,
Okay.
my mom would drive me down there to hit up their meetings and play on some of the songs, and
Yeah.
get feedback and do that whole thing. And I did think about LA for a minute, but I took one trip there to go to like a week-long summer camp at MI, and I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I don't know. This just, I could. It was just, the big city vibes.
Sure.
I was like, whoa, this is like,
Sure.
this is wild. Where Nashville still felt bigger than Baton Rouge, but
Yeah.
not like LA. And the music, LA was either like kind of butt rock or pop at that time, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, I'm just way. I'm not that country, but I'm way more country than this,
Sure. Sure. Well, man, have you at all, I mean, because I know that you've been doing the Nashville thing. I mean, have you at all done Los Angeles rights or, anything like, because I know a lot of guys go out there sometimes and man, I mean, it's like going, I mean, and I'm talking about guys that have success in Nashville
Yeah,
and
I've
they
heard
go
all the
out there and it's
stories.
different.
Yeah, it's different. I've worked with a lot of people who've moved from LA to here, or
Yep.
taken trips from LA to here. I've a couple times almost had a trip put together to go out there and work with some people, and they usually fall through for whatever reason, whether it be COVID or something else. But
Sure.
um, Yeah, I thought it'd be fun. I mean, I've hung out in LA a couple times just around gigs or other stuff over the last 10 years. But I've never really done any writing out there. I know that they like to start late, like they'll either start in the afternoon or evening or late evening and
Yeah.
work almost like through the night. And I'm like, man, Nashville's a 10, 11
Yeah.
a.m. town usually done by the
Yeah.
mid afternoon. So I'm like, man, I'd have to like totally flip my schedule to be able to
Totally.
even get on something out there. But it sounds fun. But I'm not really a pop writer. My tendencies are so kind of based in country and blues. I'm kind of a blues rock country kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much I can lean in on that a little bit,
Sure.
but it's not really pop music is not
Yeah.
my natural tendencies.
Yeah. So you come up, man, you do the Belmont thing, right? You go to Belmont.
Yep.
And so you I mean the degree you pursued, right? If as best I understand, I mean you were pursuing a songwriting degree, right?
I got a degree in songwriting, a bachelor's of science in
Yeah.
songwriting with a minor in music business,
Okay.
which a lot of those classes kind of overlap. They were in a lot of the same schools. So basically, the only difference at Belmont between or at least when I was there, the only difference is in the music business major and the songwriting major was that you basically replaced most of the macroeconomics, accounting,
Mhm.
all that stuff
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
songwriting classes. So they were very similar. You still had, publishing, copyright law, sync licensing, a lot of the
Yep.
stuff that was really song and art focused.
Sure.
You just skipped like getting a real business degree. Um, but which I thought was cool. I mean, I applied as a music business major and they were like, sounds like you want to be a songwriter. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And they're like, well, we have this thing. They literally pitched it to me. They're like, it's easier. And I was like, well, I'm not trying to like, I'm really just going to go and,
Sure.
do some networking. And my parents told me I had to go to college, you know?
And yeah, I mean, dude, and that was going to be my question to you because it's like, okay, you said your parents are doctors, right? And you're telling them like, hey, I'm getting a degree in songwriting. I mean, I'm just gonna listen. I'm just curious. Does your dad say, listen, man, that come on, like we
Man,
gotta, you gotta be,
I'm so blessed. My parents could not have been any more supportive
yeah,
of my musical
that's
endeavors.
awesome.
Since I was a little kid and my dad had a guitar sitting in the corner, as soon as I picked it up, they're like, "You want to play?" Like they were just like so supportive of my whole journey, and they loved it. I mean, they're music lovers, so I mean, they moved up to here to be closer and to hang out and
Yeah.
to go to shows. They're really diehard music fans, and I don't know if I would be. I probably would not be anywhere as close as far as I am on my journey without their support. So I've been incredibly
Awesome.
blessed. I mean, because even when I was looking at moving to Nashville, um, I thought I was pretty good, but when I'd make trips and I'd see the level of talent, I was like, God, I'm not that good. And they were like, but you could be. They were
Sure, yeah.
really supportive. They were, so that was a huge help. Um, and I was really lucky, obviously, that I went to college and that they were supportive of that. But I was obviously hustling and networking and doing all the things. I had some people give me a ton of advice. I had a hit songwriter named Jim McCormick who was a
Yep.
mentor of mine, and he wrote Brantley Gilbert's "You Don't Know Her Like I Do" and Jason Aldean's "Take a Little Ride" back then, and he's having some hits recently too. Really really talented. New Orleans slash he splits time between New Orleans and here, but um, I had a couple people like that who gave me really great advice, which led me to an internship my last semester at a publishing company called Seagale Music that
Yep.
Brad Paisley and his two
It's
of his buddies
yeah.
started together, and I was so incredibly blessed that within a week or two of starting my internship, just hitting it off with everybody, them going, "Hey, well, man, if you're a writer, like play some tunes," and I showed them some tunes, and they were like, "These are pretty good,"
Yeah.
and they ended up offering me a deal, which really set everything off for me as a writer. I
Cool.
had really not written with a ton of published writers up until that point, besides Jim, really. And I had a lot of talented buddies, but we're all around my level career wise,
Yeah.
and so that really just kind of opened the floodgates to working with really good published songwriters, and I had a lot of champions over there that became friends and helped get me in great rooms. And
Yeah.
uh, I came in some of the songs that I written with my buddies. I had some success with right off the bat, but just being able to work with really high caliber people um, once I got in over there just opened a lot of doors for me, and I started having a lot of what felt like a lot of success.
Mm.
And it's still, it was still very hard, and obviously Nashville's a competitive town with a lot of hit songwriters. But I right off the bat had a cut on a song that I actually wrote before I got over there called Blue Bandana, which was a Jared Neiman
Mm.
single it was his last single while he was at Sony. And it went to about 30 on the charts, which was really cool. And that was kind of my gateway. I was like,
Yeah.
the guy who signed me, Mike Owens over at Seagale.
Yeah, I've met Mike
Unfortunately,
before.
Mike was an incredible guy. He unfortunately passed away a few years after signing me, but just incredible guy. And it was fun. He told me this story. So when they signed me, it was about 3 months after Chris Stapleton left.
Yeah.
After being there for about 14 years, and they told me, they were like, "Hey man, Chris and Lee Miller just left, so we're planning on signing some people this year. We were just hoping to discover a couple people this year, and you kind of walked into our office first thing." So I got really lucky that they had a lot of, if you're a sports guy, they had a lot of cap space open up
Yeah.
with
I am a sports guy. Yeah.
Chris and Lee Miller leaving. But Mike told me, he's like, "Man, Chris had, I can't remember if it was 50 or 100 or 150." He goes, "Man, he had a ton of album cuts before he finally had a radio single." And he goes, "You don't even know how freaking lucky you are that your first cut
Yeah.
being a single." So that really helped me kind of just get off to the races. And around that time, I got another Jared cut. I had a Justin Moore cut, and started really having a lot of love from the A&R people for my songs, which was really cool. And obviously that led to some of the other
Yeah.
things. Um, but I ended up being in the same class as a lot of other really talented writers that were all getting signed at that time, including Michael Hardy, the artist
Yeah.
James Hardy, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Jameson Rogers, and a bunch of the other young guys. Brent Anderson, who's having a ton of success right now. But I just got plugged in with some of the most talented people in Nashville, and
Yeah.
I know I'm biased, but I think I'm talented too. So
Yeah.
we made a lot of really cool stuff together.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was a
Man,
crazy way to get into it.
it's so funny that you mentioned. So some of the okay. So all right, we'll talk. So like
Yeah,
basically, man, like when I first moved to Nashville, late man, I guess it was late 12, late 13, late 12, early 30. So I would go to a Bible study with some guys down on Music Row on Tuesday mornings, and we would meet at Seagale. So like I got to I'd meet Chris. I'd meet
we probably bumped into each other.
Yeah, and so it's like and I remember, man, like you mentioned Chris Stapleton. Like I remember I'd go in there into the kitchen, man, to get some snacks, dude. Like, and I felt bad because I never like put any money in the whatever. Like I'm taking like, these little Nature Valley bars and a Coke. And one day I walk in there, man, and Chris Stapleton's in there, just looks like a Wookiee, dude, and like this is still back like in the steel drivers, kind of day. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I just remember I was like, who is this dude, man? And like um and but it's like, and some of my, I had friends that, wrote there at Seagale, and so we would see staff writers, but a friend of ours, Brent Rupert, would write down there. My friend Brian Simpson was a staff writer there for a while. And so yeah, man, so it's just like that, just hearing you talk about Seagale, man, like it's such a cool vibe, and it seemed like it was such a good family. And you mentioned Mike Owen. Like I remember I met Mike one time, and Brian was like, dude, this guy is one of my biggest champions. And I remember sitting in that room, man, and he just listened to Brian's, work tape or whatever that he just put together. And I remember thinking, like, I want Mike's job. Like, I don't know what you do, but I want that job.
Mike had a great ear, and he, I think his first Nashville job, he was in radio. And Tim Owens, Chris's dad, brought him from Oklahoma to Nashville to help out at Arista Records. And his first gig, I believe, was going on the road and taking Alan Jackson on radio tour. That was
Really?
his first job as a really young guy.
Yeah.
Was driving Alan Jackson around and helping him out. And then he was also on the road with Joe Nichols and I don't know if he was on the road with Brooks and Dunn, but he was part of some of that early Brooks and Dunn stuff. So he just, he was a radio promoter, and then he did, I think he did a little A&R, and he did all kinds of stuff at Arista, and then Chris ended up hiring him to pitch songs at because he was a song guy,
Yeah.
and he loved music, and yeah, that plugging job is a really fun job, but man, it's so hard.
Yeah.
And not only do you have to have a great ear, but you got to just be so personable. And Mike was so personable. But yeah, I remember I had met Brian. We had a mutual friend, and I wrote with him before. Brian was I got to write with Brian before I even knew about Seagale, and I remember
Yeah.
going to that office. And then once I got over there, I was like, oh yeah, I've been here, and
Yeah.
it was pretty wild. I knew they did that Bible study
Yeah.
that Brian kind of led over
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
really long time. But yeah, Seagale was just a really cool melting pot of talent.
Yeah.
It was just a great family dynamic over there, and I'm sure they still have that over there. The staff and most of the writers have almost completely turned over, so I'm sure it's a different animal than it was
Sure.
back then. But I'm sure a lot of that family dynamic is still part of it. But yeah, man, they still have the buildings. They're
Yeah.
still over there, and
Yeah. It's a
it was
great
a
little
really cool
spot, man.
thing. I wrote over there for 7.5 years, so I had
Yeah.
a good long little chunk of being over there, and yeah, it was amazing. That was a great place to be for quite a while.
So yeah, man. So you mentioned, you wrote with Hardy and everything. And so like, I mean, because you guys were you guys writing together before he even just kind of had, burst onto the scene? I mean, because when you wrote like and you had this huge success with Morgan Wallen, right? Like, I mean, was that when you were with Seagal, or had you moved on at
Yeah,
that point?
that's when I was at Seagale. So he signed with his uncle and through a co-venture at Cobalt, like the same month that I signed at Seagale, and pretty standard operating procedure to hook all the newbies up. You know what I mean? Like the pluggers are like, hey, we got a new kid, let's
Yeah.
stick with your new kid, and so me and Hardy signed our pub deals at the same time, and within a month or two of us getting signed, they had us writing together, and we just hit it off. We were like the same age, into the same stuff, um, and we wrote a good bit. What was that? 2014, and then towards the end of the year, I think we were like, man, we should like have a regular.
Yeah.
So I think we did it every other week, and then at one point we had a weekly, and we had it every Wednesday for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and
Totally. Totally.
our buddy Jake Mitchell was on every other one of those, and then we'd plug other people in. And man, we were writing some great songs, but we got really lucky that the two of us had a cool thing, and they'd be able to plug Casey Beathard in on those.
Yeah.
We'd plug just other really talented people. Brad Clausen was one of those
Mhm.
people that we had hop in there. Rodney's son, who we co-wrote Up Down with,
Yeah.
and he's an incredible talent. Me, Hardy, and Jake Mitchell, who had that every other week, had a lot of really great songs, and Some Girls that we wrote for our buddy Jameson Rogers was from one of those co-writes, and man, we just had a lot of really cool things. I ended up cutting a lot of the stuff we wrote.
Yeah.
Hardy, since he signed his own artist deal, has mostly started writing stuff since then. He doesn't dig back a ton into his old songs. He did just put out one that he wrote by himself called Dog Years on this new record. That was actually the song that got him his publishing deal, which is really
Mhm.
crazy. If you go listen to that, it's a solo
Yeah.
write. It's what convinced his uncle and Cobalt to give him a deal. Um, Used to make people cry 10 plus years ago. So I'm glad that song's finally coming out. But yeah, man, we had a long history. He actually came on the road and played bass in my band for like
Oh, wow.
two plus years. Um, so yeah, man. I mean, we're buddies. Obviously, he's on top of the moon right now
Yeah.
as an artist. I mean, it's a rare ride to be one of the most wanted artists and writers in Nashville. That
Yeah.
seldom ever happens where you're one of the most in demand on both
Sure.
fronts. But he's one of the most talented people I know. I mean, even whenever we first started writing together, and people would be like, "Who do you love writing with?" And I was like, "Man, Hardy's one. He
Yeah.
was top two,
Sure.
if anything." And and that's why we had a regular and really wrote some really great stuff. And obviously, it just took a couple years for the rest of the town to catch wind of how freaking good he was.
Yeah.
And obviously, Florida Georgia Line pulled him under their belt, and that's really what changed things. I remember that's what took him from writing with a lot of his homies to hit every single day. He's in the room with a huge
Yep.
artist. Was when that track listing for that FGL album came out,
Sure.
he went from still writing with a lot of successful people to I was like, dude, what's a regular day look like, a week look
Yeah.
like for you? He's like, dude, Monday it's Sam Hunt and Ashley Gorley. Tuesday it's Colt Swindell and Hillary Lindsay. Wednesday
Yeah.
it's Keith Urban and Jesse Frazier. And then I go out and write and open for FGL on the weekends. I was like,
I mean,
well, you can't complain with that. I
yeah,
mean,
dude,
obviously you're gonna, and I was like, and obviously you're gonna have a lot of success when obviously he brought it, but he was, getting into huge artist rooms. I'm sure that pressure was a lot on him. I know we
sure.
talked about it being a lot, but dude nailed it out of the park, just constantly writing, big hit after big
Yeah.
hit. He's a fountain of knowledge and talent as
Yeah.
far as writing goes, and he's got a very unique thing, and he has a unique set of influences, which has obviously kind of lined up with Morgan Wallen's. They both loved rap music growing up. Hardy was a big on the rap.
Yeah.
Obviously, classic rock. That's what me and Hardy really bonded over. And then Hardy really growing up in the country helped his lingo. That was one of the things that Hardy really brought to the table was just his redneck vernacular
Sure.
was really on point, and he was able to um, craft things in a way that just not everybody was doing. It didn't feel stock. It felt
Yeah.
unique, and I think that's one of the biggest things for him is unique phrasing with the people's vernacular. So
Sure.
he's a talent, and I'm blessed to have been a part of a lot of really cool tunes with him.
Yeah. Well, and man, and I know, and listen, I know we kind of talked beforehand, and I asked you, if anything is off limits, and I think some songwriters might be hesitant to answer this question, maybe, maybe not, but it's like, there are camps, right? Like some people can say with confidence, I'm in the Carrie Underwood camp, or I'm in the Blake Shelton camp, or I'm in, whatever it is. I mean, do you feel like you can say confidently, like, man, I feel like I'm in this camp, or I feel like, you know what I'm saying? Or you just kind of like lone wolfing it?
And I've pretty much been a lone wolf from the get go. Yeah, I dip my toes in camps. I have a lot of friends in a lot of camps.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say, and I think maybe it's just the fact that I know that I'm pursuing the artist thing, as whoever calls it, but I've been pursuing the artist thing my whole time, and I
Sure.
kind of feel like that kind of leaves me on my own island. Obviously, I have a lot of writers that I love working with that
Sure.
would maybe say they're in my camp, but it's not a camp that's making them any money. So I'm sure, I'm trying to be
Gotcha.
on, outside of outside cuts or whatever.
Gotcha.
I got a lot of people that are incredibly talented that I work with that I really love. Um, if I was a big hit artist, we would probably say they're in my camp. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just kind of always, even a lot of other artists, when I've written with them in the past, they've been like, oh, well, you're an artist too. Like, we're writing just to get a great song. And, even before people like Kane Brown or Chris Lane or Jordan Davis or whoever was, when I would write with these people back in the day, it was like, well, man, let's just write a great song. And
Yeah.
if it fits you, cool. If it fits me, cool. And obviously, I wish those people would have recorded some of those songs.
Yeah, totally.
Um, it's kind of funny. I feel like when you get two artists in the room, often you kind of write a song that kind of fits somewhere between the two. It's not really me. It's not really them. It's got a
Yeah.
little bit of both. And every now and then it's really cool. I wrote a lot of really cool songs with my buddy Ian Munsick. I wrote a couple really cool songs with Travis Denning. He cut one and I cut one. Um, so you never know what artists are going to
Sure.
really work well together. I've had most of my cuts have been outside things that I did not write with the artist, which is really not the way the town works. The way
Good.
you get the most cuts is working with the artists, and I've just been really blessed to have some songs that they liked and weren't a part of,
Yeah.
and find their way onto records. Um, and a lot of it's when artists are first really getting going, and maybe Ashley Gorley isn't trying to get every single song on their album, so you're able to sneak an up down on there
Yeah.
that Ashley didn't write. It gets a little bit harder as they get more successful, just because there's
Sure.
so many big writers who are just constantly sending their best stuff to Morgan Wallen trying to get on those records, and everybody wants to be on a Morgan record
Of course.
now. No one, and not that people didn't care, but before he ever had a hit, it wasn't like everyone was begging to be on that album. So um, it was just different.
Yeah.
It's just different. But
Sure.
yeah,
Well, and man, so one thing too that because I don't think a lot, here's the thing. I remember, man, I was, whatever, early on, just, as a country music listener, I was listening to Vince Gill and stuff like that. I remember, man, I'd look at the liner notes and I'd look at all these things and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, you mean to tell me that Vince Gill didn't write this song? And, and there's just like, and I was crushed under the weight of this as a young man. I was like, what in the world? But I mean, Nashville's a writer's town, right? And so like, when you're going through, the process and like you were looking back, like who were some of the songwriters that stood out to you, man, when you were, you're looking maybe at liner notes or you're looking at like, the production and like who are some of the people that like popped out to you? They're like, man, I want to work with that guy or I want to work with that girl or who was that?
man, my biggest idol and influence for songwriting in general was Jeffrey Steele. I've been really blessed to get to know him and call him a friend and write a lot of songs with him over the last however many years. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Jeffrey. I'd assume you know him a little bit, but I mean, he wrote the majority of the big Montgomery Gentry, Rascal Flatts hits.
Yeah,
And if you name an artist, he's had a cut with them, if not a single. When he does his own shows, which Jeff, if you've never seen him play or sing, he plays and sings better than 99% of the artists in Nashville. He had multiple record deals that just never really panned out. But the dude's one of the greatest singers of all time, um, and songwriters. I think he's 60 now, but he still has energy of a 25-year-old.
sure.
If you're listening, or if you haven't ever saw him live, dude, you got to see him
Yeah,
live. He's unfreaking
yeah,
believable. But he was my biggest influence. I just all the songs I loved, I just kept finding his name on there.
sure.
Um, so he's really my biggest songwriting influence. There were other people that I saw that he worked with that I became fans of, like Bob DiPiero, and then um, I don't know, Neil Thrasher and Wendell Mobley, big
Yeah,
heroes of mine. I feel like, and obviously Stapleton,
yeah,
Jonathan Singleton. I feel like a lot of the guys that rode that line of being an artist or a writer were the people that I really gravitated to, because naturally, because they were singers and players, the they're they're I feel like you could pick out songs that were theirs because of how strong their musical sense was.
sure.
And the songs felt really musical. Obviously, there's a lot of songs out there where the lyric is just incredible, and those guys are capable of that. But an incredible lyric doesn't always stand out to me outside of maybe Tom Douglas and Alan Shamlin and some of those guys where you're like, wow, that lyric is crazy good, and I can tell it's Tom Douglas. But it's easier for me as a musician to pick out when a song is from one of those
Mm.
guys,
Yeah,
like um, and I would love to go see those people too. That's kind of what I strive to be, was a musician songwriter. Like,
sure.
um, those are the guys that really influenced me the most. Some of those guys I didn't really find out until I moved to Nashville, like Stapleton, and I don't think they were really starting to have success until I moved to Nashville.
Sure.
Um, what did I move? 2010. So yeah, that was kind of, I feel like, when some of those guys were starting to really blow up, or they got their own record deals, and they would do a showcase and you'd hear about it, and you'd go to 12th and Porter or 3rd and
Yeah.
Lindsley and see Chris Stapleton play for 20 people, and you'd be like, this guy doesn't have,
Yeah,
or this guy's trying to get on the radio. Like, get everyone else on
yeah,
off the radio and play
seriously.
him. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
But Randy Montana, a huge influence. Gotten to write with Randy. He's had a lot of hits lately. His dad, Billy Montana, is a
yeah,
huge
yeah,
songwriter. Wrote some of my favorite um, 90s and 2000s country songs,
yeah, man.
and is just a great human. But yeah, man, there's so many. I mean, this
Yeah,
town is just full of insanely talented people, and it's
totally.
so hard to narrow it down. And I feel like I'm a little bit of a chameleon in the room, that I can kind of do a little bit of everything as a writer, whether it's melody, lyric, just I feel like I'm I love top lining, and
Yeah,
so I can kind of fill whatever role somebody needs me to be. If they're spewing lyrics, I can help phrase it, put music to it. If they're more musical, I'll do the lyrics. So I love getting to work with different kinds of writers.
sure.
I just love working with talent, and that's what makes Nashville so special. Is there's so much talent.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And well, man, and I was going to ask you too, because, I know you mentioned you were a Seagal, and here's probably if for anybody that may or may not be listening, like, when a songwriter signs it, let's just say their first pub deal, right? This is not, listen, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is not probably a lot of money, chances are it's not a lot of money. And you're hopeful, like you said, that you can get into the right rooms. You can get some cuts, you can get some, singles would be amazing. If you could crack the top 40, you're killing it. If you can get into the top 10, man, look out now. All this kind of stuff. But once let's just say that because you mentioned you had that success while still at Seagale. I'm going to use the sports references like you and I were talking about. Because now you're probably creeping up on free agency. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, is
Oh
that
yeah.
accurate to say? Like, I mean, where you probably are you because I mean, as you start to kind of think about maybe what your next move is, you
Yeah,
know,
so I went from Seagale to another company
okay,
on Edge Hill, and I was there for 3 years. And obviously, my deal terms got better when I left
sure,
Seagale. I left partially, not really because of that, but because my entire team had left, and I was just wanting to freshen it up. You know what I
totally,
mean?
yeah,
It just kind of happens when you're at a place long enough, and also you've incurred as they've paid you. You've incurred tons of debt. So do I try to pay for them from
yeah.
this
That's what
debt, or
that's what they don't tell you. Yeah,
do I try to bet on new debt that's less? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Kind of get a little restart here. So it just made more sense when I talked to him to go somewhere
yeah.
else. So I went to another company, and I had some small cuts, and I think I got some really great songs in that catalog. But I left there almost a year ago, and I've just been a free agent.
Okay,
It's just made more sense as I've had past successful songs that I'm
sure,
making come off of, and I'm a traveling singer songwriter too,
yeah,
where I play shows for money as well.
sure,
So it's not like I would love to have a great team, but I have so many connections that it's been easy for me to just keep writing with my published
yeah,
friends while I try to find the right home.
totally,
And I think I have. I've been talking. I mean, I've been talking to a company since I left, just about trying to find a deal that makes sense. And me doing the artist thing, I really want to find a place that has some artist support. So that's kind of been a little bit of my
sure,
hold up is, and that a lot of the guys that I mentioned, like the Jonathan Singletons, the Randy Montanas, even Stapleton. It's almost like you kind of get to this fork in the road where a lot of them go, "Hey, I'm really digging in on the artist thing, or I'm really digging in on the
yeah,
songwriter thing." And maybe that's part of my problem is I've just got my feet planted
sure,
right in the middle of both, and I'm like, no, I want to do both. Hardy did both. You can do it. Um, so I don't know.
yeah,
I've never really had that artist support. Seagale put out some EPs on me, but they really just kind of paid for the recordings, and we put them out with an incredibly small promo budget, aka I
sure,
made a music video and we did a little PR, but it wasn't
yeah,
it wasn't full fledged artist
sure,
promotions. Um, so I think I've got a company that's going to help me out with that, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but
yeah,
that's what I'm kind of waiting on. That's what I've been looking for.
sure,
So we'll see. I still meet with and set up rights with a lot of the publishers that I've gotten to know over the years. My time at Seago really helped me get out there and meet a lot of those people.
sure,
So I've been blessed to know them and still work with a ton of published writers. So
sure.
I'm just wanting to make sure I really find the best place for me.
Sure. And let me ask you this because like and again, and I'm going to switch it up a little bit, but let's just say that like for a salesperson, right? Let's just say that they hit a lick, and they get a big sale, whatever. Let's say it's 40, 50 grand, whatever. They sold something, anything. There are salesmen that are just like, I want more. And then there are salespeople that are just like, I think I can coast. I think tomorrow I can actually chill a little bit. And so I guess my question with you, would be like, because you've had some success, were you just like, hey man, now it's pedal to the metal? Or were you just like, hey man, I can breathe? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Or you know what I'm saying? Like kind of
Well, I feel yeah. I was putting the pedal to the metal, and then that's kind of where COVID kicked in. Was
Yeah.
right as I was really gaining traction as a writer and an artist, and I had some really cool stuff cooking, and that's when COVID kicked everybody in the nuts. But
Yeah.
I was pedal to the metal, and then when COVID hit, I was just like, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
The TikTok thing did not make sense to me because like early TikTok was like dancing, and I was like, this is a fad. I'm not doing that. I'd maybe post a little bit. I mean, I was doing Facebook, Instagram lives, and
Sure.
I was doing that kind of thing, but I just wasn't really digging in on the TikTok thing. And I mean, I bought a scooter.
There you
I
go.
started doing jujitsu. I was just
Nice.
like, man, I'm gonna do other stuff.
Dude.
I'm gonna keep doing music and writing, but I don't know. That kind of threw me for a loop there,
Sure.
which maybe I should have just been like, I'm gonna figure out how to win, even though the times were
Yeah.
weird. I was just like, man, I don't even know what to do. So I wouldn't say I took a back seat, but I was releasing music. I mean, I was doing stuff. I didn't I didn't know what to do to win during those
Sure.
really weird times, which maybe I should have dug a little harder. But I don't know. I've also just stayed true to me. It's really funny. Pre-COVID, all the labels and all the people were like, "Man, CJ songs are great, but it's a little too southern rock for us." And then like the rock, the butt, Hardy kind of
Yeah.
lead on the rock country thing. It's very rock country now, which is what I've always really done. So I'm known for doing that. It's funny that there's a lot of people doing that now. Um, but I still kind of dig in on that. But I don't know. I've just kind of always done my thing. I feel like
Yeah.
all the
Totally.
music I've ever released has a feel of me. Most of my cuts kind of feel like me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I pull from a lot of different influences, but I don't know. I'm just I think that that's a big part of Nashville when you need you can either build it yourself on socials and the road and all that kind of stuff. I've beaten the road up till it's beaten me to death, and
Sure.
it's hard to make. I play selective gigs where it makes sense, and post on the socials. Try to grow those slowly
Yeah.
but surely. I don't know if I'm necessarily a viral sensation. We'll see. Maybe this new label that I'm talking with can help me get a plan
Sure.
together to work on that stuff. But man, I'm just like, hey, look, I'm just gonna do me and
Yeah.
work as hard as I can to figure it out.
Yeah.
COVID definitely screwed up that whole putting the pedal to the metal thing. Um,
Totally.
right as I was capitalizing on that up down success, and then my buddy Jameson Rogers put out "Some Girls" short
Yeah.
as a single to radio. Pretty shortly after Up Down went number one, I was like, man, I had one single, I'm bouncing to another. Um, so that was a real blessing, and I
Yeah.
was really
Totally.
capitalizing on a lot of that stuff. But COVID kind of took me
Totally.
out of that. But I don't know. I feel like I'm still trying to find my lane, but
Yeah.
more as more a marketing lane than an artistic lane. I feel like I've kind of always had an artistic lane, but
Yeah.
just trying to find that audience and how to
Sure.
connect to them, and without doing the cringiest content, which maybe I just need to double down and just start doing dumb stuff. I mean, I've done plenty of dumb stuff,
Yeah.
but just try to figure it out, a little bit better. But hopefully this it just takes a lot of money, man, to
Yeah.
promote yourself as an artist. It's not just like posting selfie videos of you talking. I mean, sometimes that works for some people, but I don't have that good of a personality, so I'm not very good at just ranting on social
Yeah.
media and having it go viral. So we'll see. I'm still trying to
Yeah.
crack that code, but
Totally.
I'm
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
loving the stuff I'm writing, and I feel like I've been blessed to just have no shortage of songs that I think are great, and that I'm sure
Yeah.
will continue to find homes over the years.
No,
We'll
I love it. Well, man, so here's the thing. So you've been awesome so far. I do have a like because you mentioned something a second ago, and now I got to ask you, dude, because it's like and I didn't expect us to go here. So my nephew, he's 13. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I take him to jujitsu. And he's a little beast, man. He's just like, he went from being like the biggest kid in the class to like now everybody's kind of catching up to him a little bit. But like this kid, whenever he's done, is just wrung out. I mean, just like mentally, physically. I mean, it has been like one of the best things for him. And the coolest thing was, man, his instructor came out the other day. This guy's like a third, whatever. Like, he's just a bad dude. And he comes out, and he's like, man, I got to tell you, this kid is just, he's getting it. He's, and he's just wrecking the joint, but man, just seeing the way that it's shaping him a little bit and disciplining him. Dude, tell me about like jujitsu. Look, what drew you to jujitsu? I did not expect to go here, by the way, but what drew you to jujitsu and like, what's the deal?
Dude, so I had some friends doing it. My little brother trained before COVID. He really hasn't picked it back up since, but my family always loved boxing and UFC and that kind of stuff. And I was passively into it, never really big. But when COVID was hitting and we were just sitting around a lot, I was like, dude, I got to do something.
Yeah,
And I was really trying to make some health changes in my life. And I was like, I hate just going to the gym and running on a treadmill or
yeah,
running outside. It makes my shins hurt anyway. I'm flat footed. So I was like, I need something for cardio and just to get my mind off of just
sure.
the world, at that time. And I had a buddy who's like, dude, you got to come join my gym or at least just give it a shot.
Yeah,
And I went, and after a couple classes, I was, I feel like people either have two things when they go to jujitsu because they basically just throw you to the wolves,
yeah,
and you start getting choked, and you go, I hate this, I don't want to do it, or I hate this,
yeah.
and I want to learn how to do it to other people.
Exactly. Yeah,
And that's where I went. I was like, dude, I want to learn how to control people like this. I mean,
yeah,
it's one of the best defensive um, art forms, especially combined with wrestling. But I wish I would have wrestled as a kid. That's one of
sure.
the first things I found out upon doing jujitsu for a while is the people who grew up wrestling
Yeah,
have a huge leg up. But dude, it's just my favorite stress reliever workout. Um, the crew that I've gotten to know from being over there, just some of the best dudes I've ever met. And I mean, it's just been really great for my mental stability and
sure.
happiness, man. It's just really, um, it's been awesome. I think it's helped my art just from I don't know, a discipline standpoint. I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit the last couple months where I'm only going like once a week, where I used to do 3 to 5 a week. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to get back into. I've been moving and I've been all kind of all over the place. So now that I'm here, I'm actually a little closer to my gym, my house now. So I'm trying to get back into the swing of the 3 a week.
sure.
But man, it's so fun. I'm like a three-stripe blue belt. So yeah, I've been doing
Yeah,
it since late 2020. But dude, I love it.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite things I've ever done, and yeah, it wears me out, and I love it.
Yeah. Man, it's so funny because when he started, going, he had a very there was a lot of can't, you know. And the thing was is like when he started to kind of figure out like I mean you could see his confidence like rising. And like listen, and I don't listen, you're not out looking for fights, but my question to you would be like, you now come do you walk not with a different gait? I'm just asking like are you like, man, I could kind of handle myself if I had to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely, it's funny. One of my coaches is like, dude, you now would beat the shit out of you from 5 years ago. But
Yeah.
this was like 2 years ago, because I was like, dude, I'm sucking. And he goes, hey, look, dude, you now would whoop you. And he goes, it's
Yeah.
not you versus anybody else. It's you versus you. And you're getting better. He goes, and that's and you should be confident in that. And he goes, I want to go, try to fight some massive dude or anything. No,
Sure.
you ain't gonna take on no Thor Bjornsson and kick his
Yeah.
butt if you know who
Yeah.
that guy is. But he's like, but yeah, I feel more confident. Had a crackhead sneak into the green room, and I'm like, are we bouncing? I'm like, are we
We
bouncing this
we
guy?
doing this?
My man's like,
Yeah.
get security. What are you talking about? But I'm
Yeah.
like, are
I
we
am
bouncing it?
security.
I'm like, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's got. I'm a little more confident. I mean,
Sure.
obviously the street is a whole other animal
Yeah.
than the mats, but yeah, I'm more confident in my ability to throw
Sure.
somebody around a little bit as
Sure.
long as they're not way bigger than me. But I'm a
Well,
realist. But yeah, I'm definitely better than I was 5 years ago.
yeah, dude, you know what's funny, and we'll stop with the jujitsu talk. But basically, the other day I saw a video. You may have seen something like this before, but like the actor Tom Hardy, man, who's already just an intimidating dude. I've seen videos of him like in tournament play, like he's actually like
Tournaments, yeah.
dude, and like he is a
He's a beast.
bad dude.
Oh, he's a beast, dude. I think he's just probably one of those people that just got into it and it just ate him up. And kind of like me, I've been like I said, slow the last couple months with just a lot of stuff moving and shaking in my life. But yeah, dude, he seems just absolutely ate up. And I feel like a lot of people get like that. I feel like you
Yeah,
kind of have to. I mean, it's one of those things that I think maybe your journey ebbs and flows, but I feel like you really got to get bit by the bug. Because I always tell people, I'm like, man, you got to go 2 or 3 times a week
Yeah.
to really be learning and really getting better. If you do it once a week, every other week, it's hard to really progress. You can kind of I feel like I've kind of been a little stagnant the last couple months.
Yeah.
And you're just not you're not in rolling shape. But
Sure.
yeah, dude, there's a lot of famous people that have been doing it. I mean, obviously, like Mark Zuckerberg's been getting into
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
Tom Hardy's definitely a big one. Who's that famous, really good looking dude from Saved by the Bell? He's like really into it.
I mean, I
Um,
think that I think there were a couple good looking dudes. Was it Mario Lopez or the other guy?
Mario,
Mark.
Mario Lopez is way into it. There's a ton. I mean, Jonah Hill does jujitsu. I mean,
Really? Dude,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what's funny is I worked with somebody one time and they were a manager or agent out in Los Angeles, and he was like, "Hey man, check it out." He was at one of the Gracie studios, but he was with David Arquette, and I was
yeah,
like, "That is so random." And
yeah.
like, and I think that they took another picture, like Ashton Kutcher was rolling, and I was like, "Man, alive!" Like, it's a
I
big
mean,
deal, man.
yeah. LA was kind of like the mecca for, I feel like, LA and New York had a big Gracie presence, and but I think LA, it's just everywhere out there,
Yeah.
which is so cool. Nashville's getting to be like that, dude. You drive down the road and there's a jujitsu gym every like
Really?
block. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, Hendersonville's got like 10. Um, they're all over Nashville. There's a ton in Franklin, and I think there's
Yeah.
some in Spring Hill now. They're popping up all over, which is really just great for the sport. And obviously, the closer you can live to a gym,
Yeah.
um, the more likely you are to actually get over there. So I love it, dude. It's a blast. If anybody's thinking about trying it,
Totally.
it's really fun.
Totally. Well, man, well, CJ, man, you've been awesome, dude. Let me before I let you go, man, tell me real quick, what's next for you, man? I know you've moved, you got a new house and everything, but like career wise, I mean, like, man, I know you're probably gonna be hitting the road a little bit here and there, but like what's the next maybe like 3 to 6 months look like for
I
you?
got a couple more singles from this last batch of tunes that I cut that are going to be coming out, but probably by the end of the year. Um, Two songs that I really love that I'm excited to get out there, and this new label that I've been talking to says we're going to potentially hop into the studio to cut some stuff for next year.
Oh yeah.
We got some county fairs, some parish fairs for Louisiana.
Yeah.
Um, Before the end of the year, I got a bunch of song fests. I still do a lot of. I love doing those. Where I've been doing this Martha's Vineyard one
Yeah.
for a couple years, and Pensacola, a couple other places. So, man, just gigging wherever I can fit in, and writing a ton. I actually got engaged a couple weeks
Congratulations.
ago, so well,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's been fun. Gonna apparently plan a wedding now, so that I'm sure that'll be a
Yeah.
blast. But
Yeah.
no, it's been great. All of that's been awesome. So a lot of stuff moving and shaking. But yeah, man, I'm hoping to have some new music for next year. I got a couple more new tunes coming out, but I was wanting to turn that into a record, but with this label thing popping up, we'll see. It might be just an EP and starting with a new
Sure.
batch and some new stuff. So we'll have to see. But yeah, you never know. But yeah, I'm excited. Just gigging, writing, putting tunes out. Hopefully with a little more gas poured on
Of course. Yeah, of
here
course.
soon.
Dude, well, man, CJ, thank you so much, man. I mean, it means everything.
Yeah, dude,
Dude,
it's been great chat.
we're rooting for you, man. And again, if you need anything from me, let me know, dude, and we'll catch you, next time.
All right, Nate,
All right,
appreciate
brother.
you.
Talk to you soon.